All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our September edition of Coffee and Cargo. So you guys all trickle in. We'll kind of go over some introductions and get the webinar started. My name's Emily Smith. I'm a project manager here at Interlog. Joining me today is Justin Engelmeyer, the vice president at Interlog USA. Ben Schwingel, International Operations Director here at Interlog USA, and Rachel Thielen, Marketing Director at Interlog USA.
Hello.
We're also joined today by a special guest, our Vietnam partners, Lee Trans. Ben, I'll hand it off to you so you can go over some more formal introductions.
Thanks, Emily.
Okay. Yeah. Good morning, the team Interlog. Okay. I would like to introduce myself. You can call me Echo. This is my English name, and my Vietnamese name is Thule. I'm a vice director of the company. And joining together today with the webinar, we also have our salesman, Jasper Mai. And we also have the lady, Evelyn, for the pricing department, and also Dennis from customer service team. Yeah, today, this is our great pleasure to join the webinar of Interlog. And we are very happy to share some ideas with you.
Thank you, Thule.
Yeah, thank you. And just a little bit about our Lurtrans. We thank you a lot for the support from the Interlog Logistics so far. Even Lurtrans is a very young, and we are the baby in the logistics field. We established our company since early of 2021. So far, we maybe 3 years old only. However, we have the experienced people from the carriers, from the top class and VLCC, and also the very experienced team for the TB trade. And of course, our main trade lanes is also the US, Canada, Latin America, Australia, European, Mediterranean, and also a little bit on the Asian countries. And we are AMC certified. Yeah. And we sign for most of the contract with the shipping line for the USA's cargo and Canada cargos. And with the our strengths in the TB trade, we can assist our partner in US in giving the best service to our customer in Vietnam. Yeah.
And those are some significant credentials there, especially for such a young company to be FMC certified and have those direct contracts with major shipping lines. I think a lot of companies in a lot of industries recognize that the COVID years determined which companies could survive and thrive and which ones were going to die out. And there's also smaller companies that grew rapidly like Lurtrans during those years. So because you're young does not mean that you don't have a wealth of experience in your company. It was just time for something new to bloom, and you acquired those credentials rapidly.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for that.
Next slide.
Next slide. Yeah.
Into some pretty heavy, interesting facts here, but I think the visual aids are helpful. Just how significant these trends are in the US and Vietnam.
Yeah. So, okay, today we will have some information sharing between our two countries, Vietnam and the US, especially for the trade relations. Look at the charts over the years from 2005 until 2023. You can see the value we export to US increased year by year, and especially in 2022. This is the biggest year. We reached over 100 billion USD export cargo from Vietnam to the US. So we consider US is the biggest market for our Vietnam country. And not only in the value, but also in the quantity of container we import into US. However, in 2023, because of the inflation, because of the economic declining, not only in the US, but also in the other continents like European, like Asian countries. So we have a little bit drop in the value exporting into the US. And from the first 7 months of this year, we export more than 50 billion USD into the US. Yeah.
And these look like a slump in numbers, but compared country to country, they really demonstrate that trade with Vietnam is increasing. It has a good trend. This webinar is coinciding with the same month that our President Joe Biden visited Prime Minister.
Yes.
Mentioned.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Demonstrate just
yeah.
how
And then you
Vietnam
see.
is to us.
Yeah, and then you see you can see a slump in this year. However, we had the historic visits by the US president that I believe that will make a remarkable changes in terms of the opportunities for two countries. Yeah, in terms of the importing from US to Vietnam and also exporting from Vietnam to US. And I think our Prime Minister also having prepared some things to prepare for that risk. We welcome the investment from the US. Also, we also prepare for the good human resource to prepare for the changes in the coming years or coming months. Yeah, and not only between two countries. The other country look at that event, that the visits by the U.S. presidents. They also a little bit how to say a little bit jealous that okay, our relations is close together. Yeah, and then we hope that the bright future is coming.
It's fun for me to look at this chart now in 2023 because 2018 when the Chinese tariffs were put into place, which doesn't suddenly seem that long ago, but I guess it was 5 years. Look where we were on the charts, and you know, it's only 7 months into 2023 we've surpassed the numbers of 2018.
Yeah,
you know, we're going to still import from Vietnam close to 100, at least $80 billion.
Yeah.
And we knew that there was going to be an upward trend after the Chinese tariffs were put into place. We just knew it took several years for the infrastructure and investment to see an impact in new manufacturers. So like I said, comparing country to country, these trends with Vietnam, the US is actually a really good sign still.
Yeah, of
Notice
course.
that some of those goods that we're exporting to Vietnam are all the raw materials, the cotton, recycled plastics, right, that come back in the form of finished goods.
We not only look into at the key export items on the right hand side. You can see the commodities and the value we import from US. For the computer electronic at 1.9 billion. Yeah, this is the biggest one. And with the visits of your president into Vietnam, I think the import will be more, and then this is also open new opportunities for our two companies. Also look at the import into Vietnam, not only export. Yeah. Okay.
True. You touched on the interest rate a minute ago and inflation. This is a nice chart just demonstrating what patterns you've seen in the last 8 years. This is bank loan rates, right? And if you want to calculate the difference between borrowing in USD versus Vietnamese dong, that's what this chart here is all in Vietnamese dong. So it'd be like your local interest rate, right, for local manufacturing.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's correct. This is the interest rate lending by the bank to the factory for the local business, for the local transaction in Vietnam by Vietnam Đồng currencies. And you can see at the moment, the average interest rate for lending is 7.5%. Yeah. This is for a short term like 3 months or 6 months, but for like a year, 12 months, the rates can be a little bit higher, around 9%. You can see orange one, like a year can be 9 or 8.5%, something like that for a long-term long interest rate. But you can see last year, the interest rate for lending by the bank is nearly to 9%, because last year we need to control the inflation. That's why the government, not only Vietnam, also US, also increased the interest rate lending by many times a year. The same in Vietnam, we also control the inflation by increase the interest rate lending by the bank. However, this year we control the inflation, the CPI, I mean consumer price index, well. So we reduce the interest rate lending by 7.5 rate. This is since you can see the most lowest compared to 8 years, yeah, in the past, because we recognize that we see the declining in the trade. That's why we need to, the government need to reduce the loan interest rate to give more money to the factory. And currently, the bank have a lot of money, and then they need the people to borrow the money.
Sure. And this graph again builds the context that this is a normal rate level for your investments. In fact, it's actually lower. So if we had just said the interest rate right now is similar to the United States, around 9%, that wouldn't show the context that this is what you've been operating with for the past 8 years. Or can you explain then how it's different when you're borrowing USD and what type of loans are applicable?
Yeah. This is the interest rate in Vietnam Đồng currencies, but for the loan interest rate in USD currencies, which is much lower. Like currently, we have the interest rate, loan interest rate in Vietnam Đồng is 7.5%. However, in USD, just 4.5 or 5, maximum 5% in USD. So it's meaning that we encourage the people import from overseas, and then the bank give the factory or give the customer the loan in USD much cheaper than in Vietnam Đồng. Yeah, they can borrow the money from the bank and then pay to overseas in USD currencies.
Is that for any loans in USD, or is it just for the United States?
Actually, the other currency like Australian or Canadian, the bank doesn't give any loan in that currency, because they consider it is not a strong currencies. They consider USD is strong currency and easy to trade. Yeah.
I see. So from select countries.
I have my daughters study in Australia, and then I want to put Australian dollar into the bank for saving, but the bank don't accept Australian dollars. Just only USD. Yeah, this is a very strange that I don't have the answer. They only accept USD.
Sure.
Yeah, strong currency.
Certainly, and that's where you see it picking up 3 points of interest rate, down to 4.5% if you're able to take a loan that's a payment in US dollars. Thanks for explaining all of that.
Yeah. How about the loan interest rate in US, how many percent now? 8%?
8 to 9, yes.
8 to 9. Oh, so compared to Vietnam, we only have 5%.
Still,
You can see
right.
5% only. Yeah. So a big gap, like a 3 or 4%.
Mhm. And
Mm.
that's where we see just still continued good news about investment by the US in Vietnam,
Yes, yes,
knowing it
I
will come
think.
back to us, right?
Yeah, this is a very good news. And this is an advantage. They can take advantage from the investor, for the investor. Yeah.
What other investors do you see in Vietnam? Certainly, you have Chinese companies that are investing. I think we talked about this last week,
Oh,
Northern Vietnam, right? And the manufacturing plants in Northern Vietnam, and that's predominantly technology, right?
mm.
What
Yeah,
else?
you see, yeah, because the US limit the cargo import from China. I mean, in terms of very strict regulation for the cargo from China export to US. That's why we receive many investment from China into Vietnam. They build up many factory in Vietnam, so they can have the origin certificate in Vietnam instead of China for some commodities that is banned by the US, like solar panel, yeah, something like that.
What else was there? Solar panels.
Mm.
Was it the Echo
Plywood, you know?
plywood too?
Yeah, plywood too, also banned from China. So not only Vietnam import into US for plywood. However, I heard that for the plywood, they have some, how to say, the US apply some high rate for the plywood. So certainly the plywood is checking very carefully by the US from Vietnam to the US. That's why recently the volume for the solar panel is reducing because they're checking something. Yeah.
So it's talking about the duty rates.
But I hope that with the visit of the President Joe Biden to Vietnam, more investment from the US.
And more favorable duty rates for import.
Yeah,
also.
yeah, I think so.
Above my level, but I'm
Maybe
sure there'll be a lot of
next 6
interest.
months, maybe end of the year, you can open a webinar and can review again whether the visit of President impact, I mean, good impact into our trade relation or not, and then we can discuss further.
We should do that. Yeah, every year we'll have an
Yeah.
anniversary and check if our
Yeah.
forecast is correct. And speaking of forecast, I think that might be the next slide. Do you want to share your views on production, manufacturing? What is the feeling and confidence in Vietnam about the rest of this year and next year?
Okay. With the visits of the President Joe Biden on Vietnamese people believe that there will be an increase for the trade between Vietnam and US and vice versa from US to Vietnam. Especially Vietnam will receive some foreign investment from US. And in the meanwhile, Vietnam also prepare something to receive some investment, focus on some main area that two countries focus in, like IT, technologies, trade and service, some four area that the US President and our Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính discussed during the conference. So on people, most of Vietnamese people are preparing for that. So we hope that there will be improvement.
So Eiko, I have a question for you guys. If you know, we were talking a little bit earlier about how the extreme highs that you're exporting to the US back in 2021, 2022, and now there's a little bit of a dip here in 2023, as there is everywhere. How is that impacting your factories? Are they still able to be running at full capacity and employment, or how's that affecting over there? Are they ramping up for the future, or is it taking a little bit of a hit right now?
Okay, thank you. Very good questions. Yes, actually, since beginning of this year, most of the orders from the US into Vietnam are reducing a lot, and you can see some big factory for footwear like Boeing also dismissed many thousands of people, of workers. Yeah, and they just keep some key people for some production line, and also for the same situation for the other factory, given the orders from the US also reduced, so they have the worker work by shift, like instead of working 6 days a week, they only work maybe 3 days a week, and the other 3 days they will receive a standard salary. I mean, very low salary.
Okay.
Yeah, they have to think of the solution, how to maintain the factory, how to keep the factory over this year, and then maybe hopefully next year they will receive the order, and then they can catch up, and then they come back to normal.
Sure.
But currently that's the situation in Vietnam. Most of workers, they only work maybe just 2 or 3 days a week.
Oh,
Is that normal for this time of year? I would expect.
Yes. Most of the factory, like the factory for the wooden furniture is strongly impacted, because the orders from the wooden furniture from the US is maybe reduced by over 50%. So they need to have a half of work to work, a half at home, a half work, like that. And we are Vietnamese, we also accept that, because at least we still be working for that company, but low salary, instead of we are unemployed.
Yes.
Yeah.
But is that normal for this time of year to only be working half of the time compared to 2015 and 2016?
Yes, this is normal for most of factory now. I mean, the biggest, the more bigger factory, the more impact. The small factory, they can be dynamic. They can have just small workers, so they can cover that cost of labor.
I'm curious, where do the employees go? Do they live in rural towns and travel to the city to work, like in China? And
sorry, could you say again?
Well, I'm curious that during the week, they work 3 days a week, and they're not working the normal other 3 days they would be working. Where do they go during that time? Do they travel back to their home in the countryside, perhaps, like they do in China? Or do they live? Do the workers live in the city near the factory?
Yeah, the workers mostly, they are not in Ho Chi Minh City. They are not their home country is far from Ho Chi Minh City, so they need to stay at the city, Ho Chi Minh City. The other rest day, they can work part-time, like housekeeper or something like that.
Oh,
yeah, and then in Vietnam we also have now the popular one is Grab, and then Uber. You know Uber. They can be they can be Grab bike for food delivery, something like that. Food delivery.
Interesting. Well, I think that paints a good picture for expectations here in the rest of the year. certainly reduced volume. That's why the note about the LCL is up there. American consumers are still buying, but in smaller amounts. So we're forecasting and making purchases of smaller
Yeah.
amounts and in shorter durations.
Yeah, I think yes. Because of the production, the production is reducing now, and then more LCL will be coming. But thinking about the solution that we can offer the customer, that consolidation, like we have the buyer in the US buy many goods from many factory in Vietnam with LCL, and
Mhm.
then we are as the forwarder. We can consolidate cargo from many shipper to one container for our customer in US. So you can offer that solution to your customer.
Right, and it doesn't take that much
Just
volume.
by
Typically,
LCL, we can ship by full container.
and if we're talking full container, a 20-foot container, once you fill half of that 20-foot container with cargo, it's more cost effective to move it as full container than LCL. There's less handling, less delay. So that's a good point to it. They have multiple suppliers in Vietnam. There's basically two ports of loading, Haiphong in the north and Ho Chi Minh City in the south. If you have
Yes.
multiple suppliers there, congregated.
Because I also received some such kind of requests from the customer in US for the consolidation solution for their cargoes, because they cannot buy a full container from one factory, but they just buy a half or 1/3 of container from one factory, and then the other one from the second factory, then the third factory, and then we can buy for them.
Yeah. And you can coordinate all of that in Vietnam.
Yeah. Yes, we can do that.
Thanks. And thanks for all your time this evening.
Yeah,
So
thank
many
you
different
for
topics.
inviting us for the guest of webinar and coffee. This is a very interesting marketing tool to PR your brand name.
Oh, we
Yeah.
appreciate just sharing information from around the world.
Yeah.
We get better than right from the source.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you. And just
Thank
before
you.
we go, for all you that have enjoyed these webinars as well, our next one's the October 18th, 10 a.m. Central Time. We do promote a monthly webinar mailing list, so you don't have to sign up every time. If you'd like to be a part of it, you can email myself at rachel@interlogusa.com. And also, if you have any questions for us or Lee Trans here, we can also forward you off to them if you want to get in touch with them on certain things about Vietnam. Just email us at sales@interlogusa.com, or again, myself, and we'll get you connected or answer any questions you may have. But thank you guys. Thanks for listening and have a good day.
Yeah, thank you.
Very much.
Thank you guys
Thank
for inviting us. Thank
you.
you. Yeah, have a
Bye,
good
Jasmine.
working day.
Evelyn.
Yeah,
Bye, Des.
bye-bye. Yeah, bye-bye.